Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 23 from Canto 6, Chapter 2. Anyata mriyamanasya na suchir vishalipate Vaikuntanama grahanam jiva vaktum iharhati Anyata mriyamanasya Nanu shochir vrishalipate Vaikuntanama grahanam Jiva vaktum iharhati Anyatha mriyamanasya Nashuchir vishalipate Vaikuntanama grahanam Manasya Nanu Shipate Vaikuntanama Grahanam Jiva Bhaktum Yaharhati. Ladies. Anyatam Niyamanasya Anyata, otherwise, Mriyamanasya, of a person who is just ready for death. Nanushocher, not. Ashuchehe, most unclean. Rishali patehe, the keeper of a prostitute. Vaikunta, of the Lord of Vaikunta. Nama grahanam, the chanting of the holy name. Jiva, the tongue. Vaktum, to speak. Iha, in this situation. Arhati, is able. Translation, were it not for my past devotional service, how could I, a most unclean keeper of a prostitute, have gotten the opportunity to chant the holy name of Vaikuntapati when I was just ready to die? Certainly it could not have been possible. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The name Vaikuntapati, which means the master of the spiritual world, is not different from the name Vaikunta. Ajamila, who was now a realized soul, that was really fast. Ajamila, who was a realized soul, could understand that because of his past spiritual activities, in devotional service, he had gotten this opportunity to chant the holy name of Vaikuntapati in his horrible condition at the time of death. End of purport. Anyatamriyamanasya now na sucher vishadipate Vaikuntha nama grahanam jiva vaktum eharhati. Were it not for my past devotional service, that's anyata, which is translated as otherwise. Anyata. Were it not for my past devotional service, how could I, a most unclean keeper of a prostitute, have gotten an opportunity to chant the holy name of Vaikuntapati when I was just ready to die? Certainly it could not have been possible. First, a little sharing in a very broad sense. I see many Prabhupada disciples, I can tell by the gray hairs and other signs. So those of you that were present with Prabhupada during this period of time will recall what I'm speaking about just briefly first. There was great happiness, joy, transcendental happiness in receiving new volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam as they would be published, especially those devotees that were distributing those Srimad Bhagavatams in various places, notoriously in airports and other places also. And what a joyful time when a new volume would come. We hear descriptions of how much Prabhupada appreciated. We see pictures of the radiance of his face, seeing a new volume and opening the book like it's gold and inspecting the artwork and the quality of the publication and everything. And Hari Sori has shared many times the two most joyous times when Prabhupada would receive book distribution scores and when Prabhupada would receive some new publications. Everything else would stop, and Prabhupada's light went on, and he just radiated happiness. So, what to speak then also the devotees, when we received those books, because it was it was a wonderful adventure, new descriptions of pastimes of Krishna and his devotees in Srimad Bhagavatam and Prabhupada's wonderful purports, and then read them, run out the door, and distribute them. And it was a very joyful time, very joyful time. I have 2 hernias to prove it, how joyful it was carrying bagfuls of books from place to place, distributing books. And then at a certain point in time, rather than just the per canto, or canto 1, part 2, canto 2, part 2, and so forth, Prabhupada began this mass reprinting of certain volumes. And he reprinted Canto 1, Chapter 1 for huge numbers for mass distribution. And Canto 2, Chapter 1, huge quantities for mass distribution. And Canto 6, Part 1. So I was too busy keeping up with Prabhupada to understand, because Canto 6, Part 1 was like, I hadn't gotten that far. But when I got that far, it was easy to understand why Canto 1, Part 1 in Canto 2, Part 1. But why Canto 6? This is the section that's being discussed. It's the theology of the holy name. Not just, go out and chant Hare Krishna on the streets, but what's the Bhagavatam say about why? What's our theology? What's the reason behind it? The scriptural basis and support for the chanting of the holy name. And there's several passages, parts in these Canto 6, Part 1, these first 3 chapters, where the Vishnu Dutas, the Yamadutas, the Vishnu Dutas, Yamaraj himself, here it's a Jamila himself, and then in summary, Shukadeva Goswami. There's 4 different sections where very important messages about the power of the holy name is being described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's for our edification, our foundational, spiritual, scriptural support for being Hare Krishna devotees, chanting Hare Krishna so much. Why? In this little section, Jamila is describing something that even comes before the chanting of Hare Krishna. And that's the benefit of association of devotees who are carrying bhakti. And through that association of devotees carrying bhakti, the seed of bhakti is received. And the seed of bhakti stays with somebody. The Bhagavatam teaches us in this story and other places. The seed of bhakti stays with somebody. Even they may forget. Even they may become fallen. Even they may become, here, super degraded. He's using these 2 terms, not clean, and the keeper of a prostitute. Now, Brahmins are clean and they don't keep prostitutes. But he was a Brahmin who became unclean and kept a prostitute. For a long time, not a little while, long time. Became very degraded, totally degraded. Turned upside down, degraded. Very, very, very shameful condition his life had reached. But the personality of Godhead, situated as supersoul within the heart of a Jamila, didn't forget. And that remembrance, that prompt from Supersoul, it's described directly in just yesterday's purport. Supersoul prompted a Jamila to name his son Narayana so that he would, being attached on the platform of the body to his son, he would call the name of his son and then remember Narayana. So that's the present devotional service that very quickly brought him to the point where Prabhupada is calling him a pure devotee. I'll read it again in the purport. A Jamila who is now a realized soul. How did that happen? Well, the mercy got a lot of nourishment. Here's a Jamila meeting this Mahabhaya circumstance, this most fearful circumstance of seeing the Yamadutas come to take him away. Swalpam apyasha dharmasha trayate mahato bhayat. What's that trayate? What's the deliverance from the greatest fear? It's not having to see the Yamadutas. Not having to see the Yamadutas. Seeing the Yamadutas is very fearful. Wait till Bhadranaran Swami comes again and ask him to tell the story of his congregation member in San Diego who saw the Yamadutas in coma It's a nice story. He tells it much better. Very fearful. Very fearful. Terribly fearful. So one is saved from that. Here, in this, he had become so degraded. He saw the Yamadutas and he panicked and called out with lots of enthusiasm the name of Narayana, his son, to take his little boy, little toddler, is going to come and save him from the Yamadutas, right? But that was where his attachment went, because when death comes, that's where your attention goes to, where you're most attached. So he went to his son and he called Narayana. And then, we all know the story, the Vishnu Dutas came. And they stopped the Yamadutas, and this very intense Srimad Bhagavatam class started. They didn't even sing Jai Radha Madhava. They just started a Bhagavatam class. Back and forth about Dharma and Paradharma that supersedes Dharma, because Ajamila had not done the atonement procedures, the Prayaschitta procedures, so he was fit to be punished, but the chanting of the holy name supersedes that. And so the Vishnu Dutas told the Yamadutas, you're unfit to be representatives of Dharmaraj. You go back to him, get your lessons straight. Leave him. And then Ajamila was hearing the Bhagavatam class more attentively than ever before. Danger has a way of helping us to be attentive. Have you noticed? And when danger goes away, we're less attentive, so we're feeling some relief. But there's a good side to danger, and that's our attentiveness to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that attentiveness to hearing the words of the Vishnu Dutas is what brought him to this point of realization. Not just, I know the philosophy, but some very deep realization, which is something that those that have been practicing Krishna consciousness for a while understand how valuable that is, how special it is, how rare it is, how sought after it is, to come to a realized state, not just the theoretical acceptance stage. So he's attributing that good fortune, which looked like misfortune. The Yamadutas had come to take him away. And it's not pretty what happens when that happens. He was protected because he called the name. And why did he call the name? Because he named his son. And why did he name his son? Because the Super Soul prompted him. Why did the Super Soul prompt him? What's the root of this? And the previous verse says it's association of devotees, association with saintly people. That's how devotional service begins. So I wanted to focus specifically on this very interesting phrase from the purport, short purport, about Ajamila, who was now a realized soul. How did it happen so quickly? Through the power, through his intense hearing, but also through the good fortune of devotional service. That starts with association with the devotees, with a devotee. So I'm going to just focus, for the purpose of focusing on that, I'm going to just describe a little bit something where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his discussions with Sanatana Goswami, you can reference it later, he's describing the same point, how devotional service begins. And twice, there's a whole series of verses in between how devotional service begins. Then he describes the first class, second class, third class stage of bhakti, and then again, how devotional service begins. It begins through association with devotees. And his emphasis is, it's not just that's how devotional service begins. He adds, even in the most advanced stages of bhakti, association of devotees is imperative, it's essential. You can say the reverse. One who thinks otherwise is a fool. But we require the association of devotees at the beginning, at the end, and guess what? In between, too. We require the association of devotees. Of course, there's qualitative ways to receive association. Specifically, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, exalted devotees. So we can start discounting the people that aren't so important because they're not exalted devotees, but that's offensive. But exalted devotees, those that are carrying bhakti within their heart. And to give scriptural support, because this is our process, Prabhupada taught us that when you make some statement, you should always be ready to support that statement based upon Scripture. Or say it the other way, before you make a statement, you have to be sure that you're well acquainted with Scripture. Then make your statement, and then support your statement by Scripture. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed that same standard. All great souls follow that standard also. I've been preparing for a seminar in Tattva Sandarbha. I'll confess why I've not been around so much. I've been absorbed in preparing for Tattva Sandarbha seminar. And Jiva Goswami is an ecstatic devotee. So, but without going off in a tangent on Jiva Goswami's being an ecstatic devotee, he outlines, as scholars are supposed to do, he outlines his procedure of how he's going to present the entire, his methodology and his sources of reference. He explains in 2 verses. And I'll just be really simple. He's going to state some anukarana, some basic fact, like Vedanta Sutra, same method as Vedanta Sutra, a statement. Like the Tato Brahma Jigyasa, there's a statement. That's one sutra, and sometimes it's several sutras. He just makes a declaration. Then he presents, step 2, presents statements from the Bhagavatam, because that's the primary pramana or evidence or valid source of knowledge to illuminate or elucidate the principal statement. And then he's going to use commentary by Sridhar Swami and others, Ramanujacharya or followers of Ramanujacharya, etc., etc. He states what his sources are. And in each one of those initial, they're called anucheds or texts, are explanations of statements from the Upanishads that people don't necessarily understand. But he's not stating, this is the Upanishadic verse that I'd like to clarify, here's the sutra. He just leaves that part out. He's very concise. As it is, the sandarbhas are voluminous. So he's just very terse and very right to the point. Anyway, back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes the same method. He's describing, he's teaching Sanatana Goswami about how bhakti begins. And he says bhakti begins by association with elevated souls. And even in the most exalted states of bhakti, it's also essential, imperative. It must be there. Association to devotees must be there. Then he gives a scriptural reference. He gives two, but I'm just going to describe one, because that's all there's time for. And the scriptural reference is a statement by Muchukunda. Muchukunda, who is explaining to Krishna in that cave where he cindered Kalyavana into a pile of ashes, how that good fortune came, how it came that he got that position of being able to see Krishna directly. It's really beautiful. So I'm going to go back a little bit. I was thinking we're in Vrindavan. We'll just describe a little bit of 10th canto Bhagavatam Katha. We'll get to the point again. Kamsa, before he did his diabolical act of putting his father, Ugrasena, in prison so he could sit on the throne instead of his father, he was building up his little empire, his group of followers, from the austerities that he had undergone and the great strength and power that he had accumulated. He went here and there, challenging kings, defeating them until there was nobody left but the king, and then giving them a choice, A or B. A, you can become my subordinate and accept my supremacy, and we'll work together and everything will be nice. And if you say no, then I'll kill you. Which would you like? So in this way, he was building his supporters so that when he became king, he would have, legions to assist him. Other very powerful persons that would do his bidding, whatever he asked, because otherwise he would kill them. So in one of those circumstances, he was traveling outside of Mathura, and nearby was another king. Another king was Jarasandha. And Jarasandha was not doing the same. He was on a hunting expedition, and he had a whole group of other people with him, soldiers and so forth. And he had captured a humongous elephant and had placed that elephant with a metal chain around his feet, all four of his feet, and stakes in the ground, a huge elephant, and he was looking for other wild creatures in the meanwhile. So this elephant, it was Kuvalyapita. He wrenched those spikes from the ground with the chains, pulling those spikes. He went charging off in the direction where Kamsa's camp was. He didn't know that, but that's what happened. And when Kuvalyapita arrived at Kamsa's camp, Kamsa was so powerful. He picked up Kuvalyapita and whirled him around and threw him some number of miles in the air. And he came crashing to the ground, right back in Jarasandha's camp. And Jarasandha went, "Wow, that was good. Who did that?" So he followed in the direction where Kuvalyapita had come flying from, and he met Kamsa. So he said, "Kamsa, I've heard about you. Nice to meet you. You're so powerful. Let me give you a gift in honor of your prowess. I gift to you this elephant, Kuvalyapita. He's yours. And not only that, I have 2 daughters. I would like you to accept my 2 daughters as your queens." Kamsa said yes. So Kamsa married the 2 daughters of Jarasandha, and now there's this, one of the ways that kings of that era would build strength is through marriage, and so the two they teamed up. Birds of a feather. So we hear more about Kuvalyapita being part of the plan of Kamsa to kill Krishna. But that's where Kuvalyapita came from. He previously was the captive elephant of Jarasandha. So when Krishna left Vrindavan and did what he did when he entered Mathura, including killing Kalyavana in a very wonderful way, details take time to say and time keeps moving. So he and Balaram broke off the tusks of Kuvalyapita and went striding into the wrestling arena with blood on one end of the tusk of Kuvalyapita and Krishna and Balaram, 12-year-old boys holding on to the other end. And after defeating Chanura and Mushtaka and the other brothers, then Krishna personally killed Kamsa. And then what happened? The two wives of Kamsa went back to their father, Jarasandha. Daddy, no! Krishna killed our husband. Take revenge. Jarasandha took a vow. Not only I'll take revenge, I will destroy Krishna and the entire Yadu dynasty. Assemble my army. And charging off he went to Mathura. And when his armies came huge, so many Akshohini divisions of soldiers came, Krishna and Balaram were notified. Krishna smiled. Assemble the chariots. Mystically, two chariots, golden chariots, just appeared. And Krishna and Balaram got on the chariots and they went off to the battlefield. All of the soldiers of Jarasandha's army were swiftly destroyed, leaving just one person left on the battlefield, Jarasandha. Balaram grabbed him, tied him up, and was ready to finish him. And Krishna said, no, let him go. And the Acharyas described, Krishna was thinking, this is a very good arrangement. Jarasandha is going to go back, and he'll bring more soldiers, and by purpose for my appearance, Pritranaya Sanunam Vinashaya Chaduskatam, it's just made very easy. He'll bring all the demons and I can kill them. I don't have to go search them out. Let him go. So as Jarasandha's going back, he's feeling very bad for one who has once been honored. Dishonor is worse than death. But when he got back to his capital city, his ministers pumped him up. Oh, it's just one of those things. You weren't prepared. Just a quirk of karma. You're so powerful, Jarasandha. You can do it. Go, team, go. Get another army. Go back and let him have it. You'll win this time. Yes, I'm very powerful. I'll get another army. 17 times. Same thing. I really like this pastime. It's instructive for devotees. Devotees should be so determined, as Jarasandha was determined against all odds. He didn't have the promise of Krishna's protection. He just had his own, chutzpah. He had his own spirit of being determined. We should be so determined, knowing that Krishna's protection is with us. So, before the 18th time took place, it doesn't say how it happened, some kind of message. Jarasandha sent a text message to Kalyavana. Kalyavana had met Narada Muni. Kalyavana was the king of the Yavanas and super powerful, and there's a long story of how he became conceived. It's a long story. Very, very powerful. And he was frustrated because he couldn't find anybody of a suitable match. Narada Muni very intelligently went to visit Kalyavana and said, the Yadavas are a suitable match for you. Krishna is the best of the Yadavas. Why don't you go wage war with Krishna? He was helping Krishna's pastimes to remove the demons. So Kalyavana and Jarasandha teamed up. You come from the north, I'll come from the east. We'll arrive at the same time, and together we'll destroy the Yadu dynasty. Right? Kalyavana got there a little bit ahead of time. Krishna saw the danger. He told Balaram, you hold them off, I'll go set up the Yadu dynasty in Dwarka very quickly. Everything was arranged. Everyone was transported. Everyone was given their accommodations, and Krishna came back. And when Krishna came back, this is a case study. Kalyavana heard from Narada Muni what Krishna looked like, so that when you see him, that's the one, get him. Because his intent was inimical. When he saw Krishna on the battlefield, he was very happy to try to kill Krishna. But Krishna is more intelligent, obviously. But Krishna didn't fight, he ran. And as we know, one of the names of Krishna is he ran from the battlefield. When a Kshatriya runs from a battlefield, it's ignoble, it's shameful. When Krishna runs from the battlefield, we give him a wonderful name and glorify him and sing his praises, Ranchor. So Krishna ran from the battlefield just a little bit faster than Kalyavana could run. It's described just beyond his reach. Just beyond his reach. Just beyond his reach. So Kalyavana tried to run faster, Krishna ran faster. Because his sinful nature, he wasn't able to capture Krishna, is what our acharyas say. So Krishna, he wanted to give some service to his devotee, Muchukunda. Let Muchukunda kill him instead of him kill him. So he went into the cave when Muchukunda was asleep. When Muchukunda was asleep, Kalyavana entered the cave. The cave was dark. He saw some body lying over to the side. He thought, Krishna got tired, so he laid down. And he went over and kicked the person who was asleep. It was Kalyavana. He woke him up. And from Kalyavana's eyes came fire. Kalyavana became a pile of ashes, like that. Now, who's Muchukunda? He's not one of these, devotees that we hear about all the time. But here we are in Vrindavan, during Kartik, hearing about Muchukunda. How did that happen? Because he got Krishna's mercy. How did he get that? How did that happen? He got the mercy of a devotee. That's how it happened. How it happened was described in the commentary by our acharyas. Muchukunda Krishna was in the line, he appeared in the Moon dynasty, and Muchukunda appeared in the Sun dynasty. He was a descendant in the line of Ikshvaku. But both royal families had access to qualified brahmanas like Gargamuni. So at one point, Gargamuni was approached by Muchukunda asking, could you tell my future? So one of the things told by Gargamuni was, one day you're going to meet the personality of Godhead face to face. I give you my blessings. You'll meet the personality of Godhead face to face. Really? What does he look like? And it described what he looked like. He heard what he looked like as Kalyavana heard what Krishna looked like, but the response was altogether different. Muchukunda became a devotee, although he hadn't seen Krishna. Like us, we hear about Krishna, we hear about the form of Krishna, the qualities of Krishna, and we become Krishna's devotees by that mercy of a devotee that gives Krishna Katha. Or book distributors take the books that tell that message, and people then can hear Krishna Katha, and some may become devotees, maybe sooner, maybe later, maybe lifetimes later, but mercy is going out by that message of Krishna to others. So he became a devotee of Krishna. And then when he saw Krishna in the cave, he didn't recognize Krishna because he had never seen him before, but also it's described because he was in this mood of anger. Now, anger is polluting. When anger is there, you can't see properly. You can see, but you can't see because he was angry. There's other examples from Scripture. When somebody is angry, they can't see properly. Jambavan, when he saw Krishna in the cave, he fought with Krishna. He's a great devotee, but he didn't recognize Krishna. Why? He was attached to protecting his family and all those things that people are supposed to do, but not in Krishna consciousness with an attachment, and finally he got the realization that this isn't just a combatant. This is the personality of Godhead. This is my beloved Lord. So Muchukunda asked, he saw Krishna in the cave, and he said, "Who are you?" And first he introduced himself. I'm in the line of Ikshvaku, and I'm here because the demigods, they asked me to engage in combat on their behalf. And I did for a long, long time uninterruptedly, to the point where when Kartikeya came to relieve me, they were so pleased, they said, "Please take a benediction." And I said, "Please just allow me to rest. I'm very tired." And in addition, if somebody interrupts my sleep, like you, Indra, or any other demigods, they'll be burnt to ashes just by my seeing them. The commentary says it wasn't like a mean thing. He just wanted them to know, leave me alone. Let me rest. Don't come back and get me to do this again anytime soon. I did my seva. I need a nap. So then Krishna introduced himself and was so pleased. He said, I've come because you are my devotee. You have been hankering to see me. Where do you get that hankering to see Krishna from? From a devotee. From Gargamuni, who's described Krishna and said you're going to one day meet him, just like we're told what Krishna looks like, and one day we're going to meet him. Yes? But he really took it seriously, because we should also take it seriously, and wanted to meet Krishna. So you pleased me very much. Your hankering to have my association was so strong. I've come here before you. here I am. And not only that, I want to give you a benediction. Anything you like. You say it. Whatever it is, it's yours. Now, there's many circumstances in the Bhagavatam where that opportunity comes. Here's what Muchukunda said. Muchukunda started berating himself. It starts with humility, doesn't it? He said, I'm a fool. I've been attached to power, to kingdom, to fame, to fighting, to heroism, property, influence, kingdom. It was never satisfying. Never satisfying. Now, all of that has been taken away just by seeing you. It's gone. And how did that become possible? By the association of a devotee. He doesn't say which devotee. The commentators say which devotee. It was Gargamuni. But by the association of the devotee. And I want to read something because it's immediately relevant to the point I said I wanted to speak especially about. He makes a mistake, a grammatical mistake. He says, I'll read when the material life of a wandering soul has ceased, O Achyuta, he may attain the association of your devotees. Now in the purport it says it's in reverse order. You attain the association of devotees and then your material existence ceases. So Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says this is a literary ornament, alankara, and it's of a particular type where something is so wonderful, the effect is placed before the cause because they happen so quickly because it's so wonderful. As what happened with the Jamila. What's that? The cause is the association of devotees. The effect is the cessation of material existence. And it happens so quickly. I mean, for us it's taking a while. It's not like, what happened with a Jamila, but our situations are as intense as a Jamila's, and who knows how qualified was he before he became fallen. In any case, it can happen very quickly. Remember once in New York, hearing a reporter in New York asking Prabhupada, Swamiji, how long does it take to become Krishna conscious? Prabhupada's immediate answer, less than a moment. And in that less than a moment, two things. Attachment to sense gratification, or trying to find happiness through fruitive activities. Give it up. And the tendency to try to understand truths of life through power of speculation, give it up. Then he said, generally, people are attached to these two things. So generally, the process is gradual. Then he repeated, but actually it takes less than a moment. So the power of bhakti that comes through the association of devotees and then through the chanting of the holy name, which is, in the case of a Jamila, prompted by Supersoul, because he had that association previously. Krishna doesn't forget. Krishna doesn't forget. He's so indebted to his devotee just from chanting once, what to speak of regularly, what to speak of without offense. So our mandate, our assignment, our homework is to become free from offense. Now, a Jamila chanted Namabas. He didn't chant with offense. So he got this miraculous result. The Vishnudutas came, he heard their message, and he's now become this remarkable personality who is realized soul. There's great power, in short. There's great power in devotional service. And the power of devotional service certainly comes from submission to it and rendering service consciously, serving Krishna and Krishna's devotees. But the seed of that starts with sadhu sangha and throughout our whole devotional lives. So as we're going to hear, Jamila, what's he going to do? He's going to go seek association of devotees. He wants to thank the Vishnu Dutas, but they don't want thanks, they just disappear. So then he goes to a place where there's a Vishnu temple, and for the balance of his life he practices Vishnu Bhakti, and he's taken back to Godhead. Quite a contrast from being taken to the court of Yamaraj to be taking on a Vaikuntha Vimana back to Godhead. Quite a contrast. Through the association of devotees and properly cultivating devotional service. So I have to end because class is over. Any discussion? Comments? Yes?
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for a nice class. It has been said that you are mentioning about the importance of association and the importance of chanting the holy name. I wanted to know that we might be chanting for years and years and years in devotional life, but devotees also goes on telling you are chanting, you are hearing, you are doing all this devotional service. But as far as we are concerned, personally, as far as our Krishna consciousness is concerned, how can we check ourselves from within that we have started getting the taste in chanting the holy name?
How can we check ourselves within to see if we're getting a taste for the holy name? That's your question?
Yes. The second point is...
Well, it's real easy. Go ahead, ask your second question.
So the first point is, how can we go...
I got the first one. Second one?
The second is, also, how can we see to it that this taste, whatever, if at all we have got it, how as and when we spend years in devotional life, that taste goes on increasing as and when our age in devotional life is also concerned.
The second one is, reduce the offenses against the holy name. And the first one is, we're not there yet. How do we tell? There's a very wonderful conversation, a morning walk conversation, famous in Nairobi, where one devotee is asking Prabhupada, how do we know, similar to your question, how do we know if we're chanting with quality? Similar, not same, but similar. And Prabhupada said, there's no question. You must. And then he said, yes, I know I must, but how do I measure that I'm chanting with quality? And Prabhupada said, you must. Then Brahmananda said, but yeah, he knows that he must, but how does he measure? And then a long statement, Prabhupada said, there's no question. You're chanting, just making it paraphrase. You're chanting because you're instructed to, because it's your duty. You're chanting because it's your duty. Therefore you must. And when you're chanting with quality, it's not 16 rounds, it's 16 million rounds, there's no limit. But you're chanting 16 rounds because you must. So there's purification and purification and purification that comes to the stage where you're attached to the holy name and you wish to not stop chanting the holy name. That's how you can tell. When there's attachment to Krishna in the form of his holy name. Not because it's musical, or because it's mandatory, or because of any other thing besides attachment to the holy name. Then that's quality. Are we supposed to end at 9 o'clock? Keep going. Okay, somebody wants to ask a question? Come on up. There's a microphone.
generally we think of association in terms of close proximity. But we have heard that sometimes devotees would write to Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
And we are missing your association. And he would say things like,
Read my books.
sometimes you are chanting there, I am chanting here, and other devotees are chanting in different places, but we are like all packed up together. So, are there different types or levels of association with the devotees?
Well, there's the way to associate when there's not physical proximity is through sound vibration. Whether it's reading his books or chanting over here, chanting over there. It's through sound vibration. That's association. That's, of the two, it's more important. I'm just going to tell a little Prabhupada story and then end. And the little Prabhupada story is, it happened right here in Vrindavan. So before there was Prabhupada